is a home where the chores are never done, where you spend your whole life running to and from. And if the life that you live is not the life you choose, make it try the home and start anew. A house is a home, even when we've up and gone, even when you're there alone. A house, a house, a house is a home.
Take everything that we have, take it and burn it to the ground. Some things were never meant to last. Take it down, 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 take it down. Take it down, 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 take it down. I'm still married to it all. That ain't no place to hang around. My love is 50 feet tall. Take it down, 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 take it down. Take it down, 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 take it down. I've grown accustomed to the way you hurl us into space. I'll never make that trip. Tears are rusted on my face, and I'm just an empty place where your love used to fit.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Our opening session today will begin in about 5 minutes. As you move to your seats and help us to start the day on time, please give us your attention for a couple of administrative announcements. And also, please take the time to make sure that your cell phone is muted. If you have not already done so, make sure to download the event app sponsored by Plexus. A QR code can be found on signs outside the entrance to this room and throughout the exhibit hall. The app is the best place to get the latest WEST program information updates, including details on locations for all the stages throughout the exhibit halls. Attendees will be able to hear about current and future systems and capabilities directly from Navy and Marine Corps leaders during the sessions at these stages. In case you weren't here yesterday, note that the exhibit hall has 2 sections, here on the ground floor and upstairs in the sales pavilion. Signs and floor decals on the first level exhibit hall and lobby can help guide you to the upper level, where you'll find the operations and focus stage, as well as the emerging tech hub, the Doncio pavilion, and other presentation spaces. There are 2 separate ticketed lunch events today. The first option is a traditional seated lunch served during the Sea Service Chiefs Town Hall session here in this room. The second option is the Anchor and Engage networking lunch, which will be served in the upper level exhibit hall. Both of these lunches are sold out. If you signed up for them through registration, a ticket printed with your badge. If you don't have a lunch ticket, concession stands are open in the exhibit hall, or you can enjoy this beautiful San Diego weather and find one of the many nearby restaurants. The Naval Institute and AFCEA thank Lockheed Martin and Peraton for their sponsorship of today's lunches. If you need to get online, the SSID and the password for the attendee Wi-Fi network are on the screens to the side of the stage. Again, please mute your electronic devices. If you have questions for the speakers this morning, 2 standing audience microphones are located directly in front of the center camera stand. Thank you, and we will begin shortly.
Imagining the outcome is easy. But coordinating the thousands of moving parts it takes to get there, that's the challenge. Integrate gives those who ensure our safety the information they need to keep their critical work aligned and on track. Integrate makes it possible for anyone, inside your organization or outside, to work seamlessly across projects, domains, and timelines. It's the only platform so deliberately designed and with permissions so granular that people only ever see what's specifically intended for them. Complex projects thrive on Integrate. We safeguard the world's most sensitive work while helping our service members move at the pace of the modern world. In Integrate, everything just comes together because it was built for this. With Integrate, share what's critical to drive what's next.
Well, she seemed alright by dawn's early light, though she looked a little worried and weak. She tried to pretend he wasn't drinking again, but Daddy left the proof on her cheek. I was only 8 years old that summer, and I always seemed to be in the way. So I took myself down to the fair in town on Independence Day. Well, word gets around in a small, small town. They said he was a dangerous.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the U.S. Naval Institute and AFC International, partnering to bring you West for the 36th time, welcome back for Day 2 of West 2026. We have just a few administrative announcements before we get started. AFCEA and the U.S. Naval Institute are grateful to Appian, Integrate, and Lockheed Martin for the premier sponsorships of West. If you have not already done so, make sure to download the event app sponsored by Plexus. You can find the link and the QR code for the app in the show guide. And if the app doesn't answer all your questions about the event, stop by the operations office upstairs in room 11. We would like to recognize the many sponsoring companies who help make it possible to bring this important event to San Diego. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for all of the West sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please welcome to the stage Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, U.S. Army retired, AFCEA's Executive Vice President for National Security and Defense.
All right, well, good morning. Hope everybody had a great evening of networking, and welcome to day 2 of West 2026. And I don't know if you heard the narrator, but this is the 36th year of a very great, strong, and powerful partnership between U.S. Naval Institute and AFCEA International. So thank you for that, and thank you for participating in our events throughout the years. Day 1 started off with a bang yesterday. The CNO opened us up by rolling out the U.S. Navy's fighting instructions. And we heard from our sea service commanders across the warfare domains about how they are evolving tactics, training, and capabilities to fight and win in an increasingly complex and multi-domain environment. And we had a keynote panel addressing the budgetary initiatives underway to balance the readiness, force structure, and innovation. And we're not going to slow down on day 2 with this next session, bringing together senior naval leaders from key allied partner nations. The Indo-Pacific remains a focal point for great power competition and maritime security in the 21st century's global security landscape. Partnerships and alliances are vital for shaping the strategic environment in the region. And speaking of partnerships, we're fortunate to have a very strong representation from our industry partners, and we want to thank them for their support at West. And this morning's panel is sponsored by Integrate, who is represented today by Chris Beauregard, Managing Director of Washington Operations. And I would like to invite Chris to the stage for some very brief welcome remarks.
Good morning. Welcome to Allies and Partners in the Indo-Pacific at West 2026. My name is Chris Beauregard, Managing Director of Washington Operations at Integrate. We're the only multiplayer project management software on classified environments, a proud sponsor of West, and very excited to announce our Series A raise this morning. I spent the last 4 years in the Pentagon and emerged with an appreciation for the hidden but foundational problems that are the Achilles heel of our critical capabilities. The United States, with its industry and international partners, are engineering some of the most complex systems ever conceived, but often doing so with antiquated software that sometimes becomes more of a blocker than an efficiency gain. Integrate was founded to solve a fundamental challenge to national security: effective collaboration. From multinational partnerships down to integrated product teams, we are stronger together and more capable of delivering deterrent effects as a united front. But this cooperation doesn't happen in a void. It requires a common goal and a tangible medium through which to work in unison. In this era of great power competition, strength is found as much in our connections as it is in our convictions. To maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific, our ability to work together must be seamless and absolute. Because integrated deterrence is the mechanism by which we turn our shared values into shared security. Active engagement, built through shared maritime domain awareness and honed in war games and exercises, ensures that we aren't just reacting to threats, but proactively shaping a theater in which peace is the desired end state. Knocking down silos across our borders and across our service branches demonstrates our collective resolve to preserving stability in the Indo-Pacific. Enduring collaboration is no longer just a logistical need, it's an operational imperative. To borrow an old adage, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you intend to do both, we would love to talk to you and support your interests. So, on behalf of Integrate, AFCEA, and the U.S. Naval Institute, it's our pleasure to host this discussion on maritime security in the Indo-Pacific. Please join me in welcoming Executive Vice President for AFCEA Executive Vice President Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, U.S. Army retired, to introduce this esteemed panel. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. This morning's keynote discussion is going to be moderated by Admiral Harry Harris, who is currently engaged in advising on strategic planning, international relations, and defense issues. Admiral Harris served as the commander of U.S. Pacific Fleet and then commander of U.S. Pacific Command until his retirement. Following his Navy career, he was appointed the U.S. ambassador to South Korea. Now, Admiral Harris was my boss back when I was a J6 at that time, U.S. PACOM, and I had some really good material, but he asked me to keep it short. So without further ado, please give a very warm welcome to Admiral Harris and the entire panel this morning. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Paul, for that short, sweet introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to sunny Southern California and today's panel on allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific region. So my job this morning is threefold. One, to keep us on time. Second, to ask questions and leave the talking to the panelists. After all, you're here to hear them and not me. And third, to introduce our panelists to you. So let me get right to it. So first off, down here, we have one up from that. We have Vice Admiral Sanjay Vatsayan. He's the Indian Navy's 47th Vice Chief of Naval Staff. After senior leadership roles at the headquarters of India's Integrated Defense Staff, where he drove joint operations, force development, and policies advancing integration and indigenization across their force. A graduate of India's National Defense Academy, the Defense Services Staff College, and Naval War College, as well as the National Defense College, he brings deep operational and strategic experience to the role. Commissioned in 1988 and a specialist in gunnery and missile warfare, he's commanded multiple frontline warships and formations, including as flag officer commanding the Eastern Fleet, and has held key staff appointments and personnel plans and policies. Next to him, we have San Diego's own Vice Admiral Pat Hannafin. Finn was commissioned in 1991 after getting his BS from UPenn and his master's from USD right here. A fighter pilot's fighter pilot. He also graduated from the U.S. Air Force's Test Pilot School. He's flown and commanded F-18 strike fighter squadrons and led major commands at sea, including the XO of the Harry S. Truman, the CO of both the Arlington and the Ronald Reagan. As a flag officer, he's held senior operational and strategic leadership roles across the Joint Staff and Indo-PACOM. Last November, Finn became the 55th commander of the U.S. 7th Fleet, the U.S. Navy's largest forward-deployed fleet. Now we have Rear Admiral Alan Javier, the 66th Chief of the Naval Staff of the Philippine Navy. Admiral Javier brings more than 3 decades of operational command, joint leadership, and maritime staff experience to his service's highest post. He is the CNO equivalent. The 1992 graduate of the Philippine Military Academy, he's commanded patrol craft and offshore patrol vessels, led integrated naval task forces, and directed sovereignty, EEZ, and territorial defense operations critical to national and regional security. Ashore, he's held senior fleet logistics and operational planning roles, including commander of Naval Forces West, where he advanced the Armed Forces of the Philippines Territorial Defense Plan, Kalasang, and strengthened Allied maritime cooperation in the West Philippine Sea. And finally, the panelist with the best name, Rear Admiral Richard Harris, the Director of Development for the Royal Navy. A weapons engineer, Rich has served at sea in His Majesty's ships Marlborough, Iron Duke, Dragon, and the new aircraft carrier Queen Elizabeth, deploying across the Indo-Pacific, the Middle East, South America, and the High North. He played a key role in Queen Elizabeth's first workup and inaugural embarkation of UK and U.S. Marine Corps squadrons. His short career spans capability development, acquisition, strategy, and policy, including senior roles in defense, equipment, and support, the MOD capability sponsor community, the Joint Forces Command, the Cabinet Office, and as Commodore of the Naval Staff in London. Rich assumed duties as Director of Development last June, where he now leads the design, refinement, and delivery of ships, weapons, and systems shaping the Royal Navy's future fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our panelists a warm San Diego welcome. Okay, let me get right into the questions now, and then I'll make sure to leave time for questions from the audience. So for each of the panelists, we'll start with Admiral Javier here. The U.S. is committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific as we operate with allies and partners to strengthen regional stability, prevent coercion, and preserve sovereignty. Your nations face different operational demands and resource constraints. How are you balancing national priorities with a shared requirement to deter aggression and maintain security, freedom, and prosperity for all our allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific? Admiral?
Good morning, Admiral, and good morning, everyone. On balancing national priorities in maintaining security and freedom and prosperity for all allies. First, the armed forces of the Philippines had prioritized territorial defense with the shift from the usual internal security operations that we were conducting before. This shift, which started a year back, is marked at present by increase in the operational tempo on the aspect of territorial defense operation. The Philippine Navy is in the process of building credible deterrence posture. We conduct naval operations, which is anchored on international law and rules-based order, and we encourage cooperation with allies and partners. Sovereignty patrols within the territorial waters had increased fourfold starting from the period 2023 up to 2025. And when we are joined by allies and partners at our exclusive economic zone in the West Philippine Sea, this reinforces the rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region. Due to challenges like availability of resources and capability gaps, the Philippine Navy prioritizes assets acquisitions, and we leverage on partnerships and security cooperations. This is in order to maintain security, freedom of navigation, and prosperity for all allies.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Free and open Indo-Pacific and the operational demands that we have, across really all of our nations. But on the U.S. side, our strategy is very much peace through strength. Much as in the recently released NDS talks of homeland security, clearly, always a priority. Also focuses on the Indo-Pacific and the not just the challenges there, but the incredible prosperity, global prosperity that region drives for the world. So ours is not a strategy of confrontation, but of strength and deterrence. And we do that in many ways. In my role at 7th Fleet, very much take what the CNO has talked about in the first day and release of his fighting instructions. From our sailors, the invigoration of the foundry and focus there across to the fleet, and then the fight itself. Leveraging that work and making that happen in the region. When we operate, it is not just a local and regional focus. When you partner with the U.S. Navy, you don't just partner with the U.S. Navy. It is very much the leading edge of the most powerful joint force on Earth. Regionally, locally, my partners, Roger Turner here in 3MEF, 5th and 7th Air Force, 8th Army. It comes with a whole lot of kit and capability and dedication and our nation's finest. Beyond that, the joint force that is behind there is very much committed in that region, as is expressed by our investment in the people and platforms and resources that we have there full-time for decades and decades. Beyond that, and very much the title of this panel, Allies and Partners, I regularly sail and operate and fly with some of the partners that you see here, and certainly some that are not here. Japan is a host nation to our forward deployed fleet. Daily, we are working and operating with them. The increased MCA, the operations with the Philippines, that's not just a U.S. presence and engagement there, but that has surely elevated capabilities and our interoperability with allies and partners. And you can keep going, with the ROK and Australia, others not represented here on the panel, but we only see what may at once time been unilateral, gone to bilateral, and almost without exception, multilateral operations. It's not just the U.S. Navy, the Joint Force, both local and beyond back in the States, and not just on the U.S. side, but with the partners you see here and many others that we operate with. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Admiral?
Thank you, sir. A free, open, inclusive, transparent, peaceful, prosperous, and a rule-based Indo-Pacific is our shared priority and shared commitment. And we say that very specifically because as a subset of that, the Indian Ocean, where most of our trade is flowing, is extremely central to our security and economic well-being. And therefore, the region remains the Navy's core responsibility, and therefore resources are allocated to ensure our credible presence, readiness, and responsiveness to meet any challenge that is emerging. We contribute to the stability of this region through maritime domain awareness, HADR, capacity building of our partners, a collaborative undertaking of numerous positive and inclusive measures which span benign areas like health, climate change, security, emerging technologies, training of our friends, capacity building, and so on and so forth. But these activities are demand-driven and not aimed at any power projection, but primarily to fill or prevent a security vacuum that could emanate at any given point of time. So it is driven by the requests from our partner countries, and we fit in wherever they want us to come in. From the Indian Navy's perspective, the balance between national priorities and a shared vision for the Indo-Pacific is not a contradiction, but a convergence. We balance our national requirement with our commitment to free and open Indo-Pacific through prioritization and partnerships. That's very important for us because we cooperate with multiple agencies and multiple nations in areas such as MDA, information sharing, logistic arrangements, etc. Our approach is to be strong where it is geographically advantage to us, interoperable where our interests overlap, and predictable in our strategic intent, while we ensure collective security outcomes and preserve our own strategic autonomy. That's how we are looking at it, and that's how we want to proceed forward.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Good morning. The UK Strategic Defence Review called for the Royal Navy to think NATO first, but not NATO only. And therefore, whilst we are focused on deploying high-end warfighting capabilities into the North Atlantic, as everyone in this room knows, those maritime forces are inherently deployable and inherently deployable globally. And therefore, we see our readiness at home for the high-end fight as important and important for our credible deterrence overseas, further afield. There's a readiness that we can achieve by making sure we are ready for our primary theatre, which is where we are living, can then deliver into the Indo-Pacific. And I think, therefore, we see that as our contribution to the defence, the security, and the prosperity to regions, including the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Folks, I'm going to ask each panelist a question or two, and then I'll turn it over to you all to ask the really tough questions. So let me begin with Admiral Vatsayan. Admiral, India has consistently called for a free, open, and inclusive order in the Indo-Pacific, Indo-Ocean region, as you discussed earlier, as well as the broader Indo-Pacific. How is the Indian Navy thinking about its role in maintaining maritime security across the region?
Absolutely, sir. As I just brought out, that we are committed to a free, open, inclusive, and a prosperous Indo-Pacific, with special emphasis on the sovereignty and territorial integrity and application of international law, including UN clause, which are assured to all states equally. And therefore, we are enhancing our operational reach and maritime domain awareness through mission-based deployments across the region. If you see the last year, for example, our deployments ranged from almost from Hawaii to the Western Mediterranean, where our ships were deployed throughout the year. And these mission-based assets, ships, aircrafts, are always deployed to be mission-ready and to be available continuous or near continuous presence in critical shipping lanes and choke points as far as the Indian Ocean region and the Indo-Pacific is concerned. These ships are deployed so that they are prepared to meet any eventuality across the spectrum of challenges, whether they be hardcore challenges or anti-piracy or humanitarian assistance or any evolving threat that comes. And therefore, we are also focusing concurrently on bilateral and multilateral partnerships through exercises such as RIMPAC, Malabar, Milan, Varuna, Konkan, with a whole lot of countries ranging from UK, France, right up to we just participated with the first ever bilat with the Republic of Korea. And therefore, this ensures that we are totally committed to ensuring that we create visibility with our partners, presence in this particular area of operations, and building credible defense by modernizing our fleet as well as our assets. Exercises and multilateral engagements have evolved over time from being just a tool of naval diplomacy to strategic apparatus for enhancing deterrence by increasing operational engagement and interoperability. And therefore, we feel that when we are together with our partners in this area of concern, we are able to generate deterrence, capacity building, interoperability, information sharing, joint logistics, and new engagements as and when they come, so that we can maintain maritime security in this area.
Thanks. Admiral Hannafin, with China becoming more connected with our other adversaries, including Russia, Iran, and North Korea, how confident are you that the U.S. Navy and its allies and partners can deter aggression and uphold the principles of a free and open Indo-Pacific region?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm supremely confident, and I'll launch into that. And it's tied to some remarks I made earlier. The scope of what we do and who we do it with is beyond it's beyond what any potential adversaries can ever do. The partnership that we have is with the quality of our individual sailors, the dynamicism and innovation of the American citizen and industrial base that was represented here, backing it. We talked about the layers, if you will, of what we have both locally, regionally, and on through with the partnerships with our service brothers and sisters across, I mentioned 3 MEF, 5th, 7th Air Force, 8th Army, and the connection to the Joint Force. I'm here representing essentially PAC Fleet with John Wade out here as the 3rd Fleet Commander. But it's much more than that, because that's just the leading edge of an impressive joint force, and I spoke to that earlier. So not only confident now, and that work that we do across with partners, that display of capability, and certainly will in the representation and of national treasure that is spent in the region. But again, not of confrontation, but of its peace, deterrence through strength, and the expression of that strength. No lack of confidence here, and I am impressed is probably the wrong word. I'm encouraged by the acceleration that I see across not only our administration and a focus in the Indo-Pacific, and the invigoration that we've heard already here in this forum on boosting the industrial base and just getting after it with a level of urgency. It's only trending positive. Thank you.
Thanks. Admiral Javier, what's happening in the South China Sea has been called the most dangerous conflict that no one is talking about. Yes. Despite the 2016 International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea, which ruled that China's 9-line claim has no basis in law, China is taking concrete actions to underscore its position by altering facts on the ground. The Philippine Navy has expressed confidence in its ability to navigate the complex security dynamics there, including expanding its fleet, enhancing interoperability with partners, and incorporating unmanned systems to meet evolving challenges. How do these investments and partnerships shape the Philippine Navy's approach to maritime security and readiness, and what lessons might other allied navies take from your experience operating in such a contested environment?
Yes, sir. On the Philippine Navy's approach to maritime security and operational readiness, the Philippine Navy is building a credible defense through the following. One, we are having efforts for fleet expansion, and we will be reorganizing to come up with organizations like surface action groups from the current organization that we have. Second, we will be having capability with build-ups, and it is now ongoing with the acquisition of some frigates, offshore patrol vessels, landing docks, the self-reliance defense posture programs for USVs and drones. We decommissioned our legacy vessels to pave way for these new capabilities. Thus, for the past 2 years, the Philippine Navy was able to increase the operational tempo, particularly in West Philippine Sea. Also, and more importantly, we are developing and we have developed partnerships through defense cooperation, where the Philippine Navy operates as a part of a wider network. The main lesson that the Philippine Navy can impart with our experiences with the aggression tactics of the Chinese is what we call the conduct of strategic information, called assertive transparency. By maintaining continuous presence, proper documentation, and exposition on a real-time condition of what we call illegal, coercive, aggressive, and dangerous activities of the Chinese at the West Philippine Sea, we could assert our rights and win over their narratives. And in the process, we are gaining public support from like-minded nations by denouncing the activities, these ICAD activities, which is, for us, a support to the rules-based order, and most importantly, international solidarity. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Admiral Harris, let me ask you about the Royal Navy in your operations in the Indo-Pacific. Goes without saying that the Royal Navy has had a long history of operating independently and alongside allies and partners at distance from your home waters. So how would you describe the Royal Navy's role in the Indo-Pacific this century?
So the Royal Navy's role now is about maintaining persistent engagement. It's about making a credible contribution. It's not necessarily about maintaining a large amount of naval mass out in the theater. Although we will arrive, occasionally on a reasonable drum with more significant naval forces. We see our priority as on maintaining that engagement, keeping the strategic dialogue and relationships going. And we see the act of maintaining that trust and that relationship as the real foundational enabling trait such that we get ourselves as allies and partners into perhaps crisis or conflict. And therefore that long-term stretch of being here, perhaps in small numbers, but then coming with slightly more occasionally as the way we see our activity and engagement with the Indo-Pacific.
Thanks. Folks, I want to ask one more round of questions, then I'll turn it over to you. We've got about 26 minutes left. So I'll start with the Admiral with a great last name once again, and we'll just work back this way. Rich, let me ask you about AUKUS. How does AUKUS contribute to strengthening Indo-Pacific security? What further initiatives are necessary to build on the existing framework, and how confident are you that we'll get there?
So AUKUS is three nations that have come together to deliver some of our most strategic and credible capabilities. I am very confident. It's one of those opportunities that is both, in temporal terms, generational, decades, forever, but it's also about doing things very quickly. It's about delivering step change capabilities in the underwater, particularly in the Pillar 1. But then in Pillar 2, it's about enabling greater technology in things like cyber, AI, high technologies that we can share as three nations. It is a way of connecting the UK with some of our most important partners in the region, and it ensures that we work together to help, as the theme of this conference, the maritime dominance of our nations.
Thanks. Admiral Vatsayan, in your opinion, how can allied and partner nations better synchronize efforts in the Indian Ocean to enhance regional security and deter aggression, particularly in the face of China's maritime expansion?
We've all been watching China, I think, for the last decade and a half, the way it has grown in numbers, as well as its operational reach. And each one of us who are responsible in that particular area as far as Indo-Pacific is concerned is monitoring, I think, each and every movement of China. But not being specific to a particular country as such, I think the threats in the Indo-Pacific are not only conventional, but also unconventional or subconventional, as we have seen in the last few years, especially in the last couple of years, where they span across the spectrum of maritime operations, from piracy to smuggling to gun running to unregulated fishing and so on and so forth. And therefore, we need to ensure that through our partnerships, through our alliances, through our shared maritime domain awareness initiatives, we are able to keep a track of each and every ship or a unit or a vessel that is operating in this area. And it's extremely important for us to do that, and we are cooperating and partnering with a whole lot of countries to ensure that there is enough of information available to us to monitor the activities of anybody and everybody. As far as China is concerned, from our perspective, from the Indian Navy's perspective, we are monitoring their movements. We are aware of their movements, whether they are the PLA Navy ships or they are the research ships, which are quite a few that are operating, and the frequency and the numbers have only increased in the last few years. There have been forays of the submarines also. But I think the bottom line is that we need to share information amongst the partners, to keep each other abreast of these challenges that are coming up in the Indian Ocean region, in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Admiral. Ben, from the Seventh Fleet perspective, what will coalition warfighting look like in a future fight out here?
The increase, understood, appreciate it. The growing, I mentioned earlier, the bilateral moving to multilateral, so exercises, right? Some are high-end work where we're truly working interoperability. Some are certainly, if you will, lower end where we are sailing, flying, and some basic pieces together. The part task training that we do in doing that contributes across the board. So as we sail, fly, operate together in exercises and operations, that is only increasing across Indo-Pacific nations and like-minded partners, which not only contributes to deterrence in that there is a collective capability there and national, multinational inclinations to work together. That also contributes to the warfighting effort. So those that train together can fight better together. And there's no doubt that those of us that wear the uniform of our nations have that as an ultimate, not a goal, but that is the ultimate task, to be ready, to be lethal, and confident in what we're doing. So some of that confidence is a bit of a question. What are we least confident in as we're working together, as we're putting together an exercise or an operation with each other, and then attacking those to build that out. So I only see increasing interoperability with the forces, and that spans all the way down south to the high-end work that we do and have done for years, definitely pre-AUKUS with Australia and then the other partners in the region. So I see the fight, if we were to get to one, is we are much more compatible both as nations and our collective interests in that free and open Indo-Pacific that we're all striving for. And again, not one of confrontation, but absolutely ready and lethal if called to do so.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Admiral Javier, the Philippines operates at the intersection of strong alliance commitments and day-to-day gray zone maritime challenges. How do you think about integrating allied support and capabilities in a way that strengthens deterrence and readiness while preserving national decision-making and avoiding unnecessary escalation?
Admiral, on the integration of allied support while preserving national decision-making and avoiding escalation, the Philippine Navy believes that alliance is essential for deterrence and coalition visibility through the conduct of security, cooperation, and engagement, and capacity building programs. This amplifies and reinforces adherence to international law, of rules-based order, of free and open Indo-Pacific, for freedom of navigation, and free maritime trade. In so doing, it is crucial for deterrence. For the Philippines, while we conduct territorial defense in our territorial waters unilaterally, thus retaining our national decision-making interests, that is, defending our sovereignty and sovereign rights, while we are avoiding unnecessary escalation by controlling the operational intent, scope, as well as the timing of these activities. Our goal is to prevent conflict. We believe that deterrence through credible defense and alliances ensure sovereignty. But we maintain that diplomacy remains to be our government's first line of defense. we look forward into integrating allied support and capabilities with the focus on increased operational interoperability, shared situational awareness, and this coalition-enabled visibility. As a matter of fact, we conducted from the period of 2024 up to 2025, we lagged a total of 22 multilateral cooperative activities. And
All right, folks, we've got about 15 minutes left. The microphones, I think, are in the middle of the room there. Please ask your questions. Tell us who you are, and then who you would like to address your question to, including Maurice.
Good morning. Rear Admiral Retired Mike Mann. Thank you, panelists, for being here this morning and sharing your thoughts. The one country that seems to be an outlier in the Indo-Pacific strategic partnership is Vietnam. And not only do they have an extensive coastline in the South China Sea, but they share a border in a critical region of China. Admiral Hannafin, to the extent that you can talk about it, can you describe any progress we're making in bringing Vietnam into the fold? And to the other panelists, if you could provide your country's opinion about Vietnam and its relationship or its role that it could have or should have in Indo-Pacific security.
Yes, sir. Briefly, though, I understand the question, but bringing them into the fold, I would assess, obviously, all the individual nations, not just in Indo-Pacific, but broadly with their own national sovereignty and ideas. From the U.S. perspective, it is not necessarily bringing them onto us. I know that's not what you meant, but not bringing them onto a side, if you will.
Good morning. The exhibit hall is now open. Have a great day, too, at West.
Have a great day.
All right. Have a great day. So, and with Vietnam, but specifically what we do with them, multiple port visits, so those have increased recently from, it's not fixed, but general numbers, up to multiples a year rolling in and out of Vietnam. And that in itself doesn't do a thing, but that increases the interaction, with our forces and with our countries. I know that it's an active, that those are active dialogues and discussion with Vietnam, not just at 7th Fleet level, but into PAC Fleet and Indo-PACOM, where I just spent the last year and a half. So I'll hand that over to the other panelists.
I think Admiral Javier is in a good position to answer that.
About Vietnam, we have overlapping claims also in the West Philippine Sea with Vietnam, but our government, together with the Vietnamese government, is having a very cordial coordination through the ASEAN context, where we tackle the issues on cooperation in disputed waters through the conduct of Navy-to-Navy talks, as well as activities in order to have bilateral support to each other through the conduct of HADR, support to our fisher folks, and we do engage them in a manner that will be having a non-aggressive and peaceful resolutions to issues on territoriality. That's my answer, sir.
Admiral Vatsayan, do you have an opinion there?
Yes, as far as the Indian Navy is concerned, we've had a very, very long and historical relationship with the Vietnamese navies, and we are participating with them in a whole lot of areas, including training We've given some assets also to them on as required basis and so on and so forth, purely on demand as per their requirements. And we've been very open. We've sent trainers also over there who are embedded in their institutions and so on and so forth. But coming to your moot question, I think every nation would be requiring to calibrate their own response to the situations. They have their challenges, as Admiral Avia brought out. They have issues with fishing, they have issues with territorial issues at sea, and so on and so forth. So I guess every nation, and especially in close proximity to China, would calibrate its own response and its own progress to or take on the challenges that are coming their way. And everybody would like to do it peacefully, amicably. So I guess we'll have to keep in touch with them, probably do a little bit of hand-holding whenever required, but definitely we'll have to accept and appreciate their independence in whichever way they want to progress further. But if they need anything, we are always there, and that's how it's going to be.
Rich?
The Royal Navy has long-standing relations with the Vietnamese Navy and indeed between the UK and Vietnam. I think from my perspective, I think more broadly, we would welcome all nations to work for a free and open in Indo-Pacific.
Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Maurice?
Maurice Jose, former Westpac sailor. And Harry, forgive me, I missed my chow call this morning if you already addressed this topic. But
okay, next question.
But hindsight is supposed to be 20/20, usually is, but not necessarily so. What coulda, woulda, shoulda? Is there something more that should have been done to prevent the Chinese from pouring concrete in the reefs that they did? And are they done? So is there something that coulda, woulda, should have been done, and anyone can address it? I can't remember if that was on your watch or not, but just thoughts.
You'll take that on, Ben?
Yes, sir. Across from about 14 or so, the U.S., not just locally, but broadly, has been watching those activities and with discussions at many different levels. And as we all know here, though we are largely representing the sea services, here in this forum, we are all also representatives of our individual countries and nations and the decisions that they're making. A number of panelists in responses to a few different questions talked about maritime domain awareness, sharing, intelligence sharing, and you heard a lot of that, from Philippine and Indian partners here. Transparency in what is occurring, not just in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. I may have called it the South Reagan Sea at one point. Transparency in what happens in the Indian Ocean and across the Indo-Pacific is a key enabler, and I believe reduces the threshold for action. That's huge, and so passing that across. Thank you.
Thanks. Next question, please.
Yes, Rick Easton, retired surface warfare officer. Admiral Harris and panel, thanks for great discussion and insight this morning. Many of you, maybe all of you, mentioned interoperability as one of the key things that we need to do going forward. 2027 and beyond is just around the corner. Obviously, a significant challenge for that fight in the Western Pacific should it happen. What are the key things that you are facing or you see from an interoperability and perhaps even an interchangeability perspective where we can do better to enhance our combined force response, naval force response?
Do you have someone in mind to answer that question?
So let me ask both our our Philippine and Indian partners here.
Okay, so as far as India is concerned, I think over the last 6 to 7 years, specifically if you are looking at from the perspective of India or Indian Navy and the US Navy is concerned, I think we've moved quite far ahead as far as interoperability is concerned. I will not say that I'm 100% happy, but yes, probably in a scale of 10, we are somewhere around 6 to 6.5. We have certain assets which are common now. With the United States Navy, we've got the P-8s, we've got the MH-60 Romeos, we're getting certain equipment, certain systems and all. And the kind of exercises that we have done as far as Malabar is concerned, both bilateral and when it went multilateral, the level of confidence that we have got, exercising with each other is way, way beyond when I first participated in Malabar way back in 2006, if I remember correctly. Then 7 and 8, back-to-back 3 Malabars I saw. And the level of complexities that have increased, mutually acceptable to both of us, is, I think, something I couldn't have imagined, then, way back then. So as far as interoperability is concerned, we have got common systems where we have started working on that, we've started talking on that, we've started exercising on that, and we are looking forward still to continue and enhance the complexities of our exercises. The same goes with the partner nations. We are exercising with the Royal Navy, we are exercising with the French Navy. We just heard the chief of the Philippine Navy that we had exercises over there with the Korean Navy. So the Indian Navy is totally enmeshed as far as bilateral and multilateral engagements are concerned, and we are looking forward to enhancing the degree of difficulty in all our exercises. And as we do that, obviously the interoperability will increase. We will keep understanding each other's CONOPS, we will keep understanding each other's the lessons that we have learned and draw lessons from each other. So I'm hopeful the next 2 to 3 years, I think things are going to be, the graph is going to be more exponential than linear.
I would say, sir, interoperability, and we are building credible deterrence and capacity building in order to upgrade our degree of contribution to the coalition. But much of the challenge for the future will be the sustainment of the effort, owing to the far distances in the Far East, as well as the very nature of the Philippines being an archipelago. So those are my thoughts and challenges for the future, sir.
I think one of the many benefits of deploying the HMS Prince of Wales strike group last year was to build and test interoperability across many navies, especially on this panel, and our ability to operate and communicate together and ensure that, should we need them, those capabilities are there and ready to be stressed.
Thanks. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning. I'm Alan Philpott. I'm the Deputy Program Manager for the International C4I Integration Program Office within the POC4I NAVWAR enterprise. And I'm proud to say that my organization currently has 437 cases across 90 allied and partner nations, including great work on the AUKUS front with the UK, great work on the maritime domain awareness front with India, and with the Philippine C4I STAR and a number of other capabilities. I would like to, if we go through major acquisition reform here in the U.S. In terms of how we can deliver capabilities faster and all types of advanced capabilities, I would like each of our coalition partner panel members to please comment on what frustrates you most in terms of U.S. security cooperation policy and process, basically the FMS process. Because the government is taking a whole of government approach right now to try and fix things in terms of defense acquisition reform. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, sir. Thank you.
So let's start with Admiral Harris, and we'll watch the clock, maybe 30 seconds each for an answer.
So I'm consistently impressed with the way the US supports the UK when we need you. And that is when things need to be sped through, or we need a new stock of weapons because something's not, because we need some more. You will make that happen. So I'm exceptionally grateful.
As far as India is concerned, we are watching closely the Speed Act and the new reforms that are coming up, and we are also planning to learn from them. But yes, our FMS cases have moved smoothly, but the only area of concern probably ITAR is the star. We need, as far as India is concerned, I think we need more leverage on that account.
I think that directed elsewhere, but briefly, because it touches on this interchangeability, interoperability of our partners. We see defense spending rising across our partners. The goal is not always interchangeability. We all bring strengths, to contribute to that strength, and how we mix and match those is key. So we have seen that across the board and an increasing intensity there. We are certainly asking for that, and that bodes well for the future.
We are thankful for the indeed increase in the foreign military financing for our government, for our armed forces, and for the Philippine Navy. Our concern is the timeliness on the processes, on how it could be streamlined in order for us to receive those capabilities in a timely manner. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Thanks for your very difficult and thoughtful questions. And please, a round of applause for our panelists.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our final question. Please welcome General Fredberg back to the stage.
All right, thank you all. Thank you all for your insights, your perspectives, for your partnerships, and mostly and importantly, your commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. On behalf of the U.S. Naval Institute and AFCEA International, we will present each of you with the Naval Institute press book, Planning for War at Sea, 400 Years of Great Power Competition, edited by Evan Wilson and Paul Kennedy. And another thank you to Integrate once again for sponsorship of this morning's session. Please give a round of applause for our panelists and our sponsors today. Please enjoy the rest of your engagement in West. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into a coffee break in the exhibit hall, sponsored by Sealing Technologies. During the break, please take the time to visit with the exhibitors, and also be sure to stop by both the Naval Institute and AFCEA booths. The Naval Institute is at booth 1341. Authors will be hosting book signings throughout the week. The app has the full schedule. AFCEA is at booth 1141 and is offering a special one-year discounted rate to new members who join here on site at West. Stop by today, take advantage of the special offer. As a reminder, both conference lunches today are sold out. There is a separate ticket for each one if you signed up during registration. Check your ticket. The Sea Service Chiefs Luncheon Town Hall will be here in this room, and the Anchor and Engage networking lunch will be upstairs in the exhibit hall. We thank Lockheed Martin and Peraton for their sponsorship of today's lunches. Thank you all for attending this morning's panel.
But the darkness never goes from some men's eye. On the narrow, strolls the sidewalks and it rolls the streets. Staking terror, dividing up meat. Nightmares spook, peace is heat. It is your name, you and me. Big flash played it in ghetto night.
politicians, throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall down, singing. Commissars and pinstripe bosses roll the dice. Any way they fall, guess who gets to pay the price? Money green or proletarian gray, selling guns straight up through the day. So the kids, they dance, they shake their thumbs, and the politicians throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Heartless powers try to tell us what to think. If the spirit's sleeping, then the flesh is ink.